Kareem Abdul Jabbar is the latest to join Shannon Lee, Daniel Santo, and I'm sure others that will follow in calling out Quentin Tarantino for pretty much mocking Bruce Lee in his latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He is a contributing writer to The Hollywood Reporter, and he wrote an article for them, and thought about I would talk about it and show you the article and read it as I go along and give my thoughts about what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has to say about what Quentin Tarantino has said about his friend Bruce Lee. The article is entitled "Kareem Abdul-Jabbar: Bruce Lee was my friend, and Tarantino's movie disrespects him." And here you see them, enjoying a moment during a break in filming, and it's Kareem and Bruce during the filming of 1978's Game of Death. And if anybody is to be vocal about it, it would definitely be Kareem, a guy who's pretty vocal himself when it comes to certain topics and certain political issues and everything that's going on. He's given his opinion, and I'm not surprised that he's the next one to step up and defend Bruce Lee, and especially in the way he's been depicted in Tarantino's new film. The NBA great and Hollywood Reporter columnist, a friend of the late martial arts star, believes the filmmaker was sloppy, somewhat racist, and shirked his responsibility to basic truth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Remember that time Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. kidney punched a waiter for serving soggy croutons in his tomato soup? How about the time that the Dalai Lama got wasted and spray painted "Karma is a beach" on the Tibetan ambassador's limo? Probably not, since they never happened. But they could happen if a filmmaker decides to write those scenes into his or her movie. And even though we know the movie is fiction, those scenes will live on in our shared cultural conscious as impressions of those real people, thereby corrupting our memory of them built on their real-life actions. That's why filmmakers have a responsibility when playing with people's perceptions of admired historic people, to maintain a basic truth about the content of their character. Quentin Tarantino's portrayal of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood does not live up to the standard. Of course, Tarantino has the artistic right to portray Bruce any way he wants, but to do so in such a sloppy and somewhat racist way is a failure both as an artist and as a human being. This controversy has left me torn. Tarantino is one of my favorite filmmakers because he is so bold, uncompromising, and unpredictable. There's a giddy energy in his movies of someone who loves movies and wants you to love them too. I attend each Tarantino film as if it were an event, knowing that his distillation of the 60s and 70s action movies will be much more entertaining than a simple homage. That's what makes the Bruce Lee scenes so disappointing, not so much on a factual basis, but as a lapse of cultural awareness. Bruce Lee was my friend and teacher. That doesn't give him a free pass for how he's portrayed in movies, but it does give me some insight into the man. I first met Bruce when I was a student at UCLA looking to continue my martial arts studies, which I started in New York City. We quickly developed a friendship as well as a student-teacher relationship. He taught me the discipline and spirituality of martial arts, which was greatly responsible for me being able to play competitively in an NBA for 20 years with very few injuries. During our years of friendship, he spoke passionately about how frustrated he was with the stereotypical representation of Asians in film and TV. The only roles were for inscrutable villains or bowing servants. In Have Gun Will Travel, Paladin's faithful servant, Chinese servant, goes by the insulting name of Hey Boy, Cam Tong. He was replaced in season 4 by a female character referred to as Hey Girl, Lisa Liu. Asian men were portrayed as sexless accessories to a scene, while the women were subservient. This is how African American men and women were generally portrayed until the advent of Sidney Poitier and blaxploitation films. Bruce was dedicated to changing the dismissive image of Asians through his acting, writing, and promotion of Jeet Kune Do, his interpretation of martial arts. That's why it disturbs me that Tarantino chose to portray Bruce in such a one-dimensional way. The John Wayne machismo attitude of Cliff, played by Brad Pitt, an Asian stuntman who defeats the arrogant, uppity Chinese guy, harks back to the very stereotypes Bruce was trying to dismantle. Of course, the blonde, white, beefcake American can beat your fancy Asian chopsucky dude because the foreign crap doesn't fly here. I might even go along with the skewered version of Bruce if that wasn't the only significant scene with him. If you'd also seen a glimpse of his other traits, of his struggles to be taken seriously in Hollywood, alas, he was just another hey boy prop to the scene. The scene is complicated by being presented as a flashback, but in a way that could suggest the stuntman's memory is cartoonishly biased in his favor. Equally disturbing is the unresolved shadow that Cliff may have killed his wife with a spear gun because she nagged him. Classic Cliff. Is Cliff more heroic because he doesn't put up with outspoken women? I was in public with Bruce several times when some random jerk would loudly challenge Bruce to a fight. He always politely declined and moved on. First rule of Bruce Lee's Fight Club was don't fight unless there is no other option. He felt no need to prove himself. He knew who he was and that the real fight wasn't on the mat. It was on the screen in creating opportunities for Asians to be seen as more than grinning stereotypes. Unfortunately, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood prefers the good old ways. And there we see an image of Kareem and Bruce Lee. And wow, what a contrast, huh? Bruce, all 5'7" of inches of him, how tall he was, and then Kareem was 7 feet plus, I guess. You know, it's just the fact that these two were definitely a contrast when it came to their height and weight and their reach and everything like that. But all I gotta say is that I love what Kareem said in this article. You know, how there is a responsibility that these people have, these directors, writers, producers, what have you, is that to take a person who is an historical figure, someone who actually lived and not a fictional person, and you take that person and you want to present him on the screen, and this movie is a work of fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it's based on, you're taking a real life situation that happened. The Manson murders, is a part of this film. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know how much they delve into that, but you do see Charles Manson and his followers. You see Sharon Tate, you see Roman Polanski, you see, Bruce Lee. You see all of these characters that were alive at one time. Some of them still alive today, like Roman Polanski. And you're going to take all of them, and there's no argument over any of them not being presented in the right way. But Bruce Lee is the one that people are targeting. People that knew him, people that loved him, people that were, his family members, good friends like Kareem Abdul Jabbar and Daniel Santo. And they're coming out and voicing their opinions, and they're, they want to tell you and show you the Bruce Lee that they knew. And like I said before in other videos, guys like Kareem and guys like Daniel Santo, his daughter, his wife, widow, they need to come out with a film that they want everybody to see, because people are making their opinions heard. They're talking about Bruce Lee in negative ways. They're telling people there's people that are writing about how Shannon needs to just get a life and move on and stop, doing this. And people are like targeting her because they say that she's using her father's image to sell merchandise and all that stuff. And you look at the way she's going about it, she is just doing this to continue his legacy. And people like that are going to always be targeted. They're always going to be looked at as people who are taking advantage of someone that was a family member of theirs that was famous and that they want to, use that name in order to make money, you know. But I don't believe that. And there's somebody like you that don't agree, but hey, that's your opinion. But my thing is, though, is that Kareem Abdul Jabbar knew Bruce. They trained together. He was like a mentor to Kareem. He was someone he looked up to, that he loved as a friend, and who helped him. And he even said 20 years in the NBA, and he was limited. He had limited injuries. It was because of his training. It's because Bruce, I'm sure, told him how to take care of himself, how to stretch, how to properly apply yourself without overexerting yourself. He knew how to train his students. Bruce Lee did. And of course, Kareem's going to come out, and be passionate about defending his friend. I'm sure someone who he loved as a brother, you know. And I'm just looking to see who else is going to be next. Who else is going to come out and talk about what Tarantino has done. And I don't think that, Tarantino is a malicious guy. I don't think that he's a guy who set out to do this, because he's a filmmaker and he's someone who puts his vision out there. And he's very unapologetic as to how he presents his films and his characters and all that. So yeah, I guess he felt this was the right way to do it, make a caricature of Bruce Lee, and maybe we should, give him the benefit of the doubt and maybe just chalk it up to, hey, this is his film and he does the films a certain way, and we know how he presents characters. But I can see why his family and friends are very adamant about making sure that they let their voices be heard and defend Bruce Lee. And I'm defending Bruce Lee myself because he's someone who has inspired my life. I never met him. I never knew him. When he passed away, I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I was a little child, and never would have had an opportunity to ever even meet him, But us fans who are passionate about Bruce Lee are going to come forward, and we are going to also have Shannon's back and Kareem and Daniel Santos back. And we just want Bruce Lee to be presented in a serious way and not a caricature, not taking something that you see, a personality trait, a way he walks, talks, the way he acts, and take that as a way to present his character. Because remember, Bruce Lee is and was a real life human being. He was not a work of fiction. He's not some character you get out of a book and then you can present it any way you want. He was a living, breathing human being. And so I think personally you have to be serious when you present him in a film, in film, TV, books, whatever, what have you. So let's just see how far this goes. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some that are going to come forward, more that are going to speak their mind about Bruce Lee and how they don't agree with Tarantino. And well, this is my video, just to talk about Kareem Abdul Jabbar's article in The Hollywood Reporter and how he felt and what his thoughts are on the portrayal of Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Those of you who stopped by, thank you, I appreciate it. And in closing, and as always, take care.